Hello and welcome. My name is Joseph, and in this tutorial we'll learn how to create flexible collections with arrays. In JavaScript, there used to be only two structures for collection of data. One, arrays, and the other one was objects. But now with the current implementation of JavaScript, we have weak maps, we have maps, sets, weak sets, arrays, and objects. When choosing a collection, you have to ask yourself what you need to do with the information. If you need to manipulate it in any way, that is, adding, sorting, filtering, or if you want to alter the members in the array. Arrays are often the best collection to use. Even when you don't use an array, you'll most certainly use ideas that you associate with arrays. Arrays are flexible because 1. They preserve order. You can add and remove items according to their position or determine if they have a position at all. You can also sort to give an array an order. Now, I'll start by showing you how we can create arrays, how you can add, how you can remove at the end or at the beginning, or if you want to, let's say, manipulate the data in the array. So we'll create a file here which will be our entry point, or the file that will contain all the JavaScript that will ship to the browser. So here we'll create a JS file. You can call it main, whichever name you choose. So I'll create main in my case. Then here, this is how we can create an array. So we can just say const. I'll use const for my keyword. You can use var or you can use let. So here I'll have items in this array. Let's say I want to have names, so I can start with Joseph. I can have Sarah. I can have Paul, Mary. So these are the items that I have in an array. Let's say I want to add onto this array. So how do you do it in JavaScript? It's very easy. Again, all you have to do is do array.push. Now how push works, it will add items at the end of the array and return the length of the array. Okay, so let's see that. So let's say I'll add a name like Traversy. That is the name that I added. Now if I log the new value for array, to make this easier, I'll create an index.html file which will be used to serve this JavaScript file to the browser. So I'll create a script file which will connect the two, main.js. So now I'll open this with live server. If you don't have live server, you can just go to this extensions tool and you can install it from there. So here I'll just open this with live server. That one will open. There we go. Now if I check the console, inspect, go to the console, I see that we have an array with 5 items. Initially, look, we had how many items? We only had 4 items in this array. And you have seen that the push method returns the new length of the array. Let's see that. We can say const length. If we log this length, because it was returned, we should see that we have the length as 5. Okay, let's go ahead and see how we can remove items at the end. So this is adding to the end. Let's see how we can add to the beginning. Let me do this. Add to the beginning, to remove at the end, sorry. To remove at the end, what we do, we say array.pop. Now we pop. We don't have to specify the element, the item at the end, because JavaScript already knows the item that is already at the end, so you can have this with 0 arguments. Now if we check for array, we see that this one, we see that traversy was removed. Good. Now let's see how we can add at the beginning. So add at the beginning. So to add at the beginning with JavaScript using an array, we say array.unshift. Let's add at the beginning, traversy at the beginning. Look here, we are logging the array, so there's no problem with that. Now we have traversy at the beginning, so we use unshift to add at the beginning. How about removing at the beginning? Beginning. Removing at the beginning, we use shift. Again, we don't have to specify any arguments because JavaScript already knows that where the item position at the beginning is. So now if we log the array, we see that we don't have traversy at the beginning. So that is just how array work. We said arrays, they are also flexible. One, we said they preserve order. You can add and remove items according to the position or determine if they have a position at all. So let's see how we can sort items given in an array to a new order. So in this case, I'll just comment this out. Let me have a new constant which will contain an array with players. So let's say I have Neymar at the beginning, I have Messi, I have Ronaldo, I have all your favorite players, Rooney included, right there. So let's say we want to sort this in alphabetically. Okay, so what we can do, we can create a function then that will accept the team or the players, then we can sort this array. So to do that, all we have to do is create this function which will call it alpha b we can say alphabetize players which will accept like the players. We don't have to do this actually. Then we can return players and we can do, let's say, sort these players. So now if we check console, this will return a new team, new players, or sorted players. Sort players, we could do alphabetize players like this. Now this will return the new sorted players, so we can just log sorted players. Now if we check, what do we have? We have an array that is sorted now, and it was sorted alphabetically, starting with Messi, Neymar, Ronaldo, and is Rooney. So that is how the array can be sorted using this method called sort. Okay, so let's see again how arrays method such as map, filter, and reduce can also be used to alter or update the information easily with a single line. So we have also other built-in methods with arrays that can be used to alter, update information. So let's see how that works in practice. Let's see, sorting. Let me have a comment for this. Sorting using arrays. Comment this one out. Okay. Let's start by using this filter method. So array, let me have a comment here, array method such as filter and reduce can alter the information easily. So for this one, we'll start by using this filter method, and we'll see how it works and how we can use it to filter through the arrays. Sorry. So we can create a constant here called members. Members, which will be an array which will contain this object, and this object will have this ID. This ID can be a mixture of strings and integers. You can have a name, let's say James. We can have an ID again. Can have an ID. We can have the name. Let's have the name to be Joy. So now we'll create a function which will implement this filter method. So we can say function get member, and we can return members, which is the name of our array. Then we can, since this members implements this array, it has access to these built-in methods that are used in array. So we can do members.filter, and we want to filter the member where the member ID, member.id, this will access the key for this first object, for the object, the key names. So we have member.id, where the member.id is equal to the ID which we are receiving as an parameter inside the function, like this. So now, if I say I want to get a member, right, all I have to do is pass in the ID. So I'll copy the ID in one of these items inside this members array. Let me copy the one with the first item. This will give me back a member where the member ID matches to this ID. So this will return again, and I capture that object that was returned here. So I can just do member. Now if I log for member, what will I have? You see, now I have an array where I have the member where the ID matches to the one that we passed here. So you see, you can also work with these methods such as filter to retrieve information inside array. Let's see also how we can use an array as a bridge between an object and a loop. Okay, so that is the other thing we learn, using an array as a bridge. Using an array as a bridge. Let me have a comment for that. Using an array as a bridge between an object and a loop. Using an array as a bridge between an object and a loop. First we'll start, I'll give you an example where we can transform an object with object.keys or keys, and we'll see how this object.keys will help us. So first we'll create a constant. Let's say player1. Player1 will be equal to this object let's say name Bruce, we'll have a score, let's say 20. We'll have level, let's say level 2. That is for player 1. We'll also have player 2. Player 2, we'll have this as Doreen. We'll have 50, and we have level 1. No, not that one. So the first thing that I want to do is get the keys that are used to build these objects. So for that we can use object.keys, which will transform these keys and have them, which will place these keys inside their own arrays. Let's see how that works. So we can say player is equals to object.keys. This will grab the keys out of an object, and since we have the same keys in both objects, there's no need to we can use one of these objects to get the keys. Again, we log the player so that we can see how these keys look like. Let's see how they look like. So now we see name, score, level. Object.keys helped us to grab these proper keys from the object and place them in inside their own arrays. We say that we can use array as a bridge between an object and a loop. So let's see how this loop will help us. We can do for let's say x is equals to 0. Then you'll say if x is less than player dot length, then I want to increment the value of x by 1, like that. So I'll simply log the player at the index. So now if you check this, we'll see that we have name, score, and level. Arrays as bridge to interact with this object. We transformed these objects to an array using this object.keys, right? And transforming this object into an array helped us to be able to loop through it. Okay, so yeah, so you can use objects and arrays together hand in hand. Let's learn how we can also have arrays as how arrays have a built-in iterable. An iterable merely is a way for the code to go through a collection, one item at a time, knowing its current position. So that basically means that arrays have this built-in iterable thing that helps us loop through it. And let's see how that works. Let me comment this. Arrays have a built-in iterable which is just a way for the code to go through a collection one item at a time, knowing its current position. Current position. Okay, so I'll have objects here, call them dog pairs. Then we can say, let's give like a name for this. Scooby will have the color black. I'll have another dog pair. This is a dog pair. Then I'll have, let me say, another constant. I'll say dog pairs, which will be equal to an array which will contain arrays inside. Scooby black. Have another example, Coco and brown. Take a look at this object and this array. We can construct an array to look like an object, to have the key and to have the value. Okay, we can use a loop to access the key and also the value inside these dog pairs, which works similarly to dog pair, which is an object. Okay, so this is not necessary, but it's good to know that an object could be an array of pairs. Okay, so let's see how we can retrieve the key and the value, or how we can know the value for the value inside an array given its key. So what we can do, we can create a function. Let's say get dog name or get dog color. Let's say we want to get the dog color. So here what we'll retrieve is the name of the dog. So we'll receive name as a parameter inside that function. Then we return dog pairs, which is this array here, dog pairs. And I will use a built-in method called find, which will look for the items that matches the argument. So we can use find. So here we get something. I'll have it as attribute, then I'll say where the attribute so here we loop through arrays. They have this built-in iterable, as we said. It will give us an object, it will give us an array, okay? Then we want to check for this name, okay? Remember, this name inside this array, it's at index position 0, so we can do attribute at index 0 where it is equal to the name that we are passing as a parameter inside the function. So now we can use these arrays similar to objects, which is not necessary, but it's just a demonstration on how they can work together. So now let's see how this will work. So now dog color will be equal to, call this function get dog color, which will receive the name. So again, we pass in the name. Let's say we want to get the color of Coco. So now if I console.log dog color, everything looks fine. So now let's see. We see that it was not returned, okay? The array was returned, but we didn't want the array, we wanted only the value. So for this one, we could have just done where array equals to the attribute yeah, that looks okay. What you could have just done, it returns an array, this returns an array, okay? So we can use an array here and we can capture the value at index position 1, which will target the color. Okay, sorry about that. Now if we log this, we see we have the dog color. We see the color is brown. So using the name, we were able to get the color of the dog, which is not necessary. Again, it's just an example to show you how we can use arrays to work like objects. Good. So let's comment this out. Okay, so let's learn how we can clear existence in array with includes. So here we learn how to find out if a value exists in an array without checking position. Okay, so let me have a comment for this. We can say clear existence in array and in array with includes. We learn how we can find out if a value exists in an array without checking its position. So testing existence with JavaScript has always been a little clunky. For example, if you want to check if a string has a position in an array, you check to see if the string has a position. Position being another feature of an iterable. If the position exists, you'll get the index. If not, you get -1. The problem is that the index can be 0, and remember that 0 evaluates to false, also known as falsy. This means the existence can be true, but the check evaluates to false. So let's see how that works. So I'll have a function. Before that, I'll have, let's say I have an array with countries, Kenya, and I'll have another with Malawi, I'll have another with Somali, I'll have another with Nigeria. I want to check existence, so that's where the function will work. Check existence. Let's say we want to check the existence of a country like Uganda. Remember, the index of Uganda is 0, so let's see what position it will evaluate to, or which value it will return. So let's say countries, let's say I want to get the country at index position of where the Uganda is, Uganda. So we return true, otherwise we return false. False. So we are using index of to check for if the item in the array exists based on its position. But the problem is with the problem is with the 0 index. Uganda evaluates to index position of 0, and here that means if you're checking for 0, it will return false. That is a wrong, that is not right. Okay, so it's not a good idea to use index of while checking for the position in an if statement, because we might get bad interpretation, or we might not get the right things if my English is correct. So here we'll call this function check existence, and let's see the value it returns. Const returned val check existence. Now if I log returned val, if I check this return value, what will I get? I get false. So that means the value does not exist, and we see that we have Uganda inside our array. So the solution to this problem will be using includes instead of using index. Includes will check to see if a value exists in an array and return a boolean of a true or false. So this is where includes comes in. So instead of using index of, we can replace it with includes. So let's see. Now if we use includes, call the function, take in the returned value, log the returned value there. So now look, we get true. That means Uganda exists in our array called countries. Okay, so yeah, so we are done with that part, and we can see now how we can use includes where we don't need index of. Okay, let's learn how we can mold arrays with a spread operator. Mold, let me have a comment for this again. Mold arrays with the spread operator there. Here you'll see how to simplify many array actions with a spread operator. The spread operator gives you a way to create and manipulate arrays quickly with minimal code. The spread operator symbolized with 3 dots. Maybe it might be the most widely used new feature in JavaScript. The spread operator turns array into list items. So let's see where we start. We can start by let's say we mold an array like animals, and here we'll have dog, cat, all your favorite animals here, goats. And so we can use the spread operator to turn it into a list. Okay, so how do we do that? We said we use 3 dots. So we see we have an error because you cannot do this. Even though it is the correct way to do it, you cannot do it. If you do this on a browser or a repo, you'll get an error. The syntax is correctly, but you can't use the spread operator on its own. You can, for example, assign the output to a variable. You have to spread the information or into something. So let's see how we can do that. So we can, let's say new animals. Let's store the 3 dots, or we can create a new array. Do this. Now this will spread the animals into this new array called new animals. So now if I log new animals again, look, we get the same array but in a new variable. Okay, so the same technique can be used to copy one array into another array. To see how powerful the spread operator is, let's start by a simple approach, removing an item from an array. So here we'll have a simple function. Let's create a function called remove books. Remove book, we just call it remove book. We'll pass in the books, which will be the array, and we'll pass in the item that we want to remove. So we'll just call it removable, or the book that we want to remove, removable. So here we'll have an array, have it as updated, call it updated, which will contain an empty array. We'll have a loop which will be used to loop through the books. So we can say let I equals to 0, and we can check for if I is less than books.length. We want to increment the value of I with 1. Then is check. Using the if statement, we can do if books at index I, or if that books at that position is not equal to removable, then we want to push to the updated array item variable. So we can say updated.push. We want to push books at that position, the book at that position. If it is not equal, here we'll just return updated. Okay, the first thing while writing this function, we see it's not a good approach. It's a good rule, I think, to keep things as simple as you can. Instead of doing this, we we can take advantage of this JavaScript method called splice for this problem. But the problem with splice, not slice, is that it mutates the original array. So let's see how we can simplify this function to a function which is better. Function, let's create a function called remove item. Again, takes in the books, takes in the item that we want to remove. So the first thing we'll do is get the index of the item that we want to remove. So we can use books.indexOf to get the position removable. Then we do books.splice, which will remove that item and give us back the updated books. So for this one, it will take in the index as the first argument and 1. That will be for the number of elements that we want to remove. Then after we update, we return the books. But we have seen the problem with splice is that it mutates the original array, and we'll see that. So here I have an array of books. Let me copy that. I have an array of books. Let's say I want to remove an item. So remove item, I'll call that function. I'll pass in the books array and the item that I want to remove. Let's say I want to remove this book, Rediscovering JavaScript. Have place it in there. Now if I log the const new books, will be equal to that. If I console.log now the new books, if you check for new books, we see that the items was removed. So this is just a simplified way of writing this function that we have here. But the problem again is we are mutating the array. So that means if we check on the books that we had here, let's log the books, these books that we passed here, we see if it was mutated. So let's see, console.log books, let me see, books. If we checked here, we see that JavaScript mutated the original array, which is a bad idea. So arrays have a built-in, the solution now, it's by using this slice method. So it is a built-in array method which returns a part of an array without changing the original array. So we are looking for a solution that will not mutate the original array, and that is using the slice, not the splice. This time it's the slice. When you're using slice, you pass the starting point and an ending point, and you get everything in between. Alternatively, you can pass just a start point and get everything from that point until the end of an array. Then you can use concat to put the pieces of the array back together. Okay, so let's see how that works in practice. To avoid any confusion, again, I'll just comment these lines. Don't need this. Let's have it here using slice as the solution does not mutate the original array, which is a good thing, right? Which is a good thing. So I love to use this players array. Let me have it again. Messi, Ronaldo, Neymar, Rooney. We'll have another player called Bale. Let's have a function to remove the players, so we can use function for the function remove player, like so, and we pass in the players, which will be the array and the player that we want to remove from this players array. First, we'll start by getting the position of the player. Position where the player is inside the array. The position where the player is inside the array, so we'll assign this to a variable called remove index. So you can say, to get the index, you remember, take advantage of index of. That's where we can use it, and we pass in the player that we want to get the index. Now we can return a slice. We can do players dot slice. We want to slice starting from position 0 to where this remove index position is. Then we want to concat players dot it's player dot slice remove index +1 to the end. So slice here helps us to get everything in between until the end. Then we use concat to put the pieces back together. So I know this syntax is a little bit hard to understand, but let's try and see how it works piece by piece. So the first thing I can do here, I will just log console.log this players.slice from starting at 0 to the remove index. We see what it will return. So if I log this, did I log this? Oh, I did not call the function. We need to call the function always remove player, and we pass in players, which is the array, and I want to remove, let's say, Ronaldo. So if I check this, we see Messi was removed. We get Messi because here we are saying remove at index 0 to where, so it will remove this, okay, this item, and it will return this, because here we are only checking on 2 items. We are checking on Messi and Ronaldo. This is the item that we want to remove because this is like the end. This is the ending point, right? So if I remove this, I remain with Messi, right? Then I go ahead and concat. I'll concat starting from remove index remove index, that means remove index plus 1 to the end of the array. That's where we use this plus 1 to look at the next value. Okay, yeah, that is just how it works. It's not easy to understand, but if you take your time, you'll surely understand how it works, because I don't think that it's hard. So the code is great. Now we are getting a new array without changing the original array. We are not mutating our array anymore. However, it isn't clear what is getting returned, right? Another developer will need to know that concats joins two arrays into a single flat array. There's no visual clue of what you're doing. So the solution for this is using the spread operator combined with slice. The spread operator turns both sub-arrays into a list that placed back into square brackets. It actually looks like an array and gives you a smaller array without affecting the large array. So to see how this works, we'll create a function. We'll create a function called remove index or remove item. Let's just have it as remove item. Then we can pass in the items, then the removable, which will be removable. Removable. Then we'll get the index of that removable item. Again, we take advantage of index of, which will get us the index. Then we use slice together with the spread operator. So we'll spread through the items to get a copy of the original items array. Then we'll do slice, passing the 0 as our first index, then remove index. Then we want to concat. Again, we can remember we don't have to use concat because we want to join. We want to combine the two sub-arrays, so we can place a comma here, spread the items once again, and slice. This will combine to where the remove index was, or not the remove index but index, to the end of the array. So this is similar to this, and this one, it's easier to understand compared to this one. Okay, so yeah, let's see if it works. Remove index, comment this line. Actually, I'll comment the entire code except for the players array because you're using it. Let's see if we remove Ronaldo and return other players inside the array. Check for this. Remove index is not defined because it's remove item, not remove index. Something is not working. Oh, we need to store the returned value. So it is a new array, console.log new array, new array there. So now if you check this, we get the new array with Ronaldo excluded. So that is how we can use the spread operator together with the slice to alter the array without mutating its original values. So So here there are no mutations and it is easier to read, it's simple, and also it is reusable. The spread operator also lets you pull out the items of an array with a few characters. So let's see how that works. We don't need this, and also we'll not use this player's array anymore. Here I'll create a new array. Actually, let's have a comment. We'll say the spread operator also lets you pull items of an array with few characters. So I'll have an array, const array will be equal to, I may have Joseph, I'll have 24, I'll have age of gender, male. Function get values okay, let me show you how the traditional way of doing this will look like first. So we'll receive these parameters. We'll receive the name, age, gender. Let's say we want to return this. We can use template returns. For this, we can say name, age, name, age, gender, don't need that, gender. So now call the function get values, pass these arguments, so we can just pass them from the array. We know the first item is the name, the second item is the age, 1 array at index 2, it will be the gender. So instead of doing something like this, if the array preserves the order of items, then we don't have to use this. We can use the spread operator. We can use this the spread operator to spread the values as arguments in the function call. So the solution for this will be, let's say, call the function again, simplify this using the spread operator, and have the array right there. Only if the array preserves the order. But if I had male here, that will not be, that means I will come inside this function and maybe have this gender as the first parameter. Okay, so yeah, that is how we can use the spread operator as an argument to a function call. Comment these, we don't need it. Comment the other lines, we don't need them. So the other thing that we are going to learn is how we can avoid push mutations with the spread operators. So here we'll start by, let's have an array. I keep forgetting, we should have at least a comment to tell us what we are doing. Avoid push mutations. Avoid push mutation with the spread operator. Okay, so here I'll have a simple array called cat, It will be an array which will constitute of items in a cart. ID 1, we'll say item 2, price 1200. Let's have another object, have the ID as 2. We can have a shirt 200, or yeah, 300, 400, whichever number you choose. And here item 3, trouser 900. Okay, so now let's have a function called add reward to cart. Add reward to cart. It takes in the reward that we want to add. Okay, it takes in the reward to add. So the first thing that I want to do is get the total of these, get the total of the cart items. Actually, I'll have these as integers instead of having them as strings. Okay, so I'll create a constant total items, and we can use an array method called reduce, which will get the sum of the items inside this cart array. So we can do reduce. It takes in a function, and the first thing I'll just pass in, I'll say accumulator, and the current. Then we can do return accumulator, which accumulator, in case you don't know, it's the, let's see here, oops, here, it's the previous value, right? So we get the sum, then accumulator will store that value, then if we add here, it will add on to this as the accumulator. If you are here, it will take the sum of this and this and add it. Okay, so accumulator plus dot price. Okay, then here we'll have 0 as the initial value. So we check if the total, let's say if the total is greater or equal to 1,500, or let's say 1,200, and then I want to take in I want to return and the cart with a reward. Okay, if the total number of items have an amount of 1,200 or above, we add the reward. That is how the function works. Yeah, so here we'll just return the cart. Should not be total, it should be total items. Sorry for that. Let's create the object that will be used to store the reward. Can just have reward as the key, and we'll say 2 hoodies and shirt. Okay, 2 hoodies and shirt. Now we'll say new reward, will be equal to we call the function add reward to cart. We pass in that reward. Okay, so here instead of using an array method like push, we use the spread operator, and at the end we add the reward. Okay, so we can also add items to the beginning and end of an array using the spread operator. Here again we are adding this reward item at the end of the array, avoiding the push method, which will cause mutations to the original array. Okay, so let's see if the reward was added. So reward, if we say new reward, log this. Oops, we have a syntax error somewhere. Where? Oh yeah, we needed to reload that. So we see the price is above 1200, so now we have a reward, 2 hoodies and a shirt. So we used the spread operator to add the reward instead of push method, which will cause mutation to the original array. Okay, so yeah, so that is how we can use the arrays to create flexible collections. So that is the end of this tutorial. I hope you learned something, and see you in the next tutorial. Bye.